Hello. I'm going to be teaching you about the parts of a computer today. Now, normally what I would do with my students in class, I would take a computer, I would put it on the desk, I would open it up, and I would show them the parts, and I would take it apart in front of them to let them see, number one, how it goes together and how easy it is to sort of replace the components in a computer, as well as I would teach them what each part does and sort of troubleshoot some of the issues they're having. I don't have a really good way of doing that right now. I don't, all my computers are at school right now and I'm at home. I have computers here, but I can't take them apart. So what I'm going to do is this. I'm going to use pictures like on this Quizlet that I've created, and I will provide you a link to the Quizlet in the description below. So feel free to go on there and learn using my Quizlet. You can even compete with people in some of the competitions, and I'll show you that in a little bit. You could even run Quizlet live with some friends. So this is how it's going to work. I'm going to show you some pictures. I got the picture from Wikipedia Commons, and I do have full. It says I'm allowed to use it in any way I would like. It had the description down here. So this is a picture of the inside of a desktop computer. Now, laptop computers, cell phones, tablets, smartphones and tablets, they all have the same basic components. Obviously, in a smartphone and a tablet, those components are smaller. They get a little bit bigger in your laptop, and then even bigger in desktops. And the nice thing about desktops is there's a lot of room for upgrading. Laptops are really nice, but normally when you see people playing video games on computers, it's going to be on a desktop computer. The reason for that is you can add a lot in. You'll see there's a lot of empty space here, a lot of extra a lot of extra spots that you can add things in there. So let's talk about the main components of a computer. Now I'm going to be jumping back and forth between the two. I want to make sure that we're able to really to get in here. So to begin, this entire thing is called a case. Okay, you can buy these cases. I really like buying my cases if I'm building a computer. I like the website newegg.com, but there are a bunch of websites online. You can buy it on Amazon. So here's the case. They're anywhere from, like, I don't know, $40 all the way up to $300, $400, $500. You could probably spend a couple $1,000s on a case if you want, but it's just a case and it houses everything in it. The other main part of the computer is going to be the motherboard. That's this huge chip, and that huge chip connects everything inside the computer. So it's going to connect all the components that we're talking about. And a lot of times, sometimes, you'll get some errors on your computers. And if it's a bad motherboard, normally you have to replace most of your components. Sometimes you can find a motherboard that's compatible, though, especially if your computer's newer. So a motherboard talks to everything. All right. So we've got the motherboard. And on that motherboard are different things, okay? There is a fan here, and under that is the processor. I'm going to go through that in a little bit. The processor is basically like the brain of the computer. Anything it's working on, it's being processed through the computer. All right, through the processor, okay? Then we have a hard drive. Hard drives are inside of here. Let me show you what a hard drive looks like. This is an opened up hard drive. But inside of hard drives, what it's doing is it's saving everything. So all your pictures, all your saved games, all the videos saved on your computer, all the programs installed on your computer, when they are not running, they are saved on that hard drive. Right? And that hard drive is going to be right in a slot here. And this one looks like it can hold at least 2 hard drives, maybe even 3. Those aren't accessible from the outside of the computer. Normally, there's no reason to ever touch the hard drive. If I had a computer that broke completely and I wanted to retrieve some of the information, get some of the information off my hard drive, or I'm getting rid of my computer, it's old and I want to get a new computer, I would take that hard drive out of the computer and put it in my new computer and be able to access those files. All right. You don't want to do that if there are possibly viruses on the hard drive. So you'd want to talk to a professional, or at least someone that knows a little bit more, to make sure you don't get viruses on your new computer. But that's where everything is saved. So if your computer breaks, A lot of the times, all your files are totally safe and they're saved on that hard drive. Then when you open up a computer, so you double click on it and you open up a program, not a computer, you double click on that program and it opens up. What it does is it takes the files, it opens them up from the saved files in the hard drive, and it puts them into the RAM. Okay, RAM, random access memory. And what that is, your RAM fills up with all the running programs. So if you are, let's say you have a bunch of different tabs open in Google Chrome, what you're doing is, if your computer starts running slow, the reason why it's probably running slow is because you have so many tabs open and every tab takes a little bit of your RAM space. And once your RAM's full, the computer doesn't have any more memory to start running processes on. And so it starts running really, really slowly. Now, there are other reasons why your computer could be running slowly. Maybe you need to run a disk cleanup, which would clean up the extra files on your hard drive. Maybe you need to defragment your hard drive. What that means is it would sort of these empty spaces form in the hard drive, as well as your files sort of get jumbled around. And so when it starts trying to open files, it's always jumping around trying to find stuff. And what you do when you defragment the hard drive is you're cleaning it up and you're shrinking the amount of space that you're getting rid of all that empty space so it can much more quickly read the files. All right. There's some other reasons why your computer might run slow. A lot of the times, and I fix computers when I'm looking for a little bit of extra spending money, most of the time when a computer is running slowly, and I tell my students this all the time, if a computer is running quick, it runs normal, and then it slows down, and then it runs normal, and then it slows down. What's probably happening is your processor is overheating. So what that means is on top of your processor, you have a fan, and under the fan, you have a heat sink. Now, what I have down here, if we scroll down, I do have a heat sink and fan section, and let me open that up. So underneath this heat sink is going to be your processor. Okay, the processor looks like this. The brain of the computer. If it gets too hot, it normally puts itself into sort of like a shutdown, cool down mode. What happens is you have air flowing through here, and the heat from the processor is going into these fins here, into this heat sink, and the fan takes that heat away. Well, what normally ends up happening in most of my clients' computers when I go to work on them, the entire case is filled with dust. So this entire section gets filled up with dust. And I apologize if you hear my dog barking. He's just happy to hear about heat sinks. So what ends up happening is the heat sink fills up with dust. The fan can no longer blow air through that heat sink. It can't take the heat away. And so your processor overheats. So all you have to do is go in there with some canned air, spray it in the heat sink, and get that dust out, and your computer's fixed. That has actually been one of the biggest problems that I've run into. And you don't want to have to pay someone like me a lot of money to fix some dust in your heatsink, or you do. You give me a call. I'll come over there and blow the dust out. All right. So gaming PCs, a lot of people, or gaming phones, gaming laptops, what they're going to have is a really good video card. That would be also true for anyone that's editing videos or editing photos, running Photoshop, anything like that. The video card is right here, okay? And that's an add-on card. There is a built-in video card to your motherboard, but it works well normally for just sort of small web browsing and stuff. But when you start playing games, having an external video card takes a lot of the strain off your motherboard, off your processor, and off the RAM. It gives a lot more memory to the video, and it is able to run video at a lot faster frames per second. So if you are having issues with low frame rates, especially in your video games, upgrading your video card might be a really good idea. Now, if you're getting what a lot of my students call lagging during your video games, that could be, I don't know, your computer could be running slowly. It could also be, which a lot of times this ends up being, you just don't have a fast enough internet connection. So check that internet connection. I have another unit on setting up internet and how it works and all that stuff. So I'll be posting videos on that soon. So The only other component that I can think of, there are like disk drives, but those are sort of disappearing. Um, the big component that I'm missing that I haven't talked about yet is the power supply. Now, power supplies are extremely important for your computer. The reason why is this: you cannot plug a computer, the motherboard, straight into your wall. The electricity that comes out of the plug in your wall is called alternating current. If you plug that into your computer, it would burn your computer up. It would destroy it completely. Electronics run on direct current. And so what happens is you have a power supply. You plug this into the wall. The power supply regulates the power and sends out direct current in different amounts of voltage to different components. I'm not sure what's going on here. To different components in your computer. And so you see, here's the power supply, and the wires run up and they run to your disk drive, to your motherboard, to your hard drive, and the video card has a separate power source as well. It comes from that power supply. So the power supply is extremely important, um, especially that you have a large enough power supply. If you start upgrading your computer, which I would definitely do a lot more research than just this video. But if you start upgrading your computer, a lot of the times what ends up happening is your small little power supply that worked great for your computer in the first place no longer has enough power to supply. And that's going to be one of the weak links. So you can go on a website like Newegg and find a much better power supply. But please do a lot more research than just this video. What I would like you to do now is I would like you to go to my Quizlet, go into Quizlet, and what I would like you to do, I would like you to choose, and let me zoom out so it looks like it would look for you. I would like you to choose Learn. Learn is an awesome way of learning these new things. And I want you to go down to Options, and I want you to unclick Written Questions. That's just way too hard. A lot of times that'll be selected. Unclick that, and then close it. And then you can start answering some of these questions. So for instance, if I click here, I guess it wants me to answer here. Oops, I didn't see the question. So it says hard drive. Where's the hard drive? Here's the hard drive. So I click it. You can plug things in and they normally work. Now, I didn't talk about this one, but this is a USB. All right, we plug in USB. Awesome. Motherboard, the main chip of the computer. So you can go through there and you can start learning those words. Then you can go click back, and there are some games like Match and Gravity. I really like Match. Match is a fun one. If you log in, you can actually, what you can end up doing is you can compete with other people to be able to get the highest score, which is a lot of fun. So you just click and click, and you identify what the parts are. And whoever gets the fastest time, and you can compete with me, and I'm going a little slow because I'm talking right now, but you can compete with me for the fastest time, and you can see, look at that. See, I have other people already beating me. So try to beat them, and maybe I'll go on there. And yeah, so I'm going to do another video. What I want you to do with this is I want you to create a Google Slides presentation of all the parts of a computer, and then I'm going to teach you how to do a screencast, a lot like what I just did, to be able to present that in a way that you could share with the world. And maybe you could put it on your own YouTube. You'd need your parents' permission. For my students, I have them put it into their blog. But I hope you learned a lot. If you have questions, ask in the comments below, and have a wonderful day. Wash those hands, 20 seconds. See ya.